I'm Lance Lambert. Thank you for tuning in to the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Los Angeles, California, where we're going to take a tour of the Petersen Automotive Museum. So what do I tell you every week? I want you to get really comfortable. I want you to sit back and enjoy the show. As many of you longtime viewers know, it's just about mandatory for me to have at least one warm and fuzzy story on each episode, so here it is. Hey, back when I was in high school growing up in Tacoma, Washington, there was a Union 76 station at 6th and Union that we used to hang out at. And there was a guy that lived in the neighborhood that drove one of these turbine Chryslers. If you remember, they made 50 of these, and I believe every person that drove these over their testing period had them for about 2 months, and they wanted to use them for just kind of normal driving, the average driver. So they moved these around the country and gave them to different people to drive. Well, this guy and his wife used to come into the 76 station and fuel up there. This car would come in, it would just kind of make a whirring noise, and even back then we all realized this was a big deal. The couple that drove the car, they were just kind of your average middle-aged couple. He even wore a fedora hat when he drove the car like they used to back then. So this car has some special meaning to me, and gosh, it's warm and fuzzy to see it again. Tim, is it okay to do another warm and fuzzy story? Would that be okay? Okay, good. Several years ago, I was at Hot August Nights in Reno, Nevada, and there was Ed Roth standing there. Well, when I was a little guy, about late grade school, I used to be able to do a reasonable facsimile of the rat fink design. So the neighbor kids would bring their shirts to me. I would knock off a rat fink figure on there, spray a little fluorescent paint on it, and charge them 50 cents. And I actually did this for a lot of the kids in the neighborhood. Well, I told this story to Ed Roth, and he just kind of looked at me, and he was very quiet. He put his hand on my shoulders and said, "Well, I guess you owe me some money, don't you?" And then he started laughing. So it was really exciting for me to meet Ed Roth and tell him that story, and he was just really a super guy. Ed, we miss you. We have the honor of speaking to Mr. Richard Messer. He is the director of the Petersen Automotive Museum. Richard, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for being here.
You bet. What's the history of the museum? When did it start?
We opened our doors in June of 1994, and at the time it was part of the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. And approximately 2.5 years ago, we formed our own private foundation, the Petersen Automotive Museum Foundation, and took it out of the hands of the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County and became our own private foundation, our own museum. So now we're privately held, privately funded, self-sustaining museum here in the center of Los Angeles at Wilshire and Fairfax.
How do you talk people like Bruce Mayer and some of the big players to park all their cars here?
Oh, it's not hard. I mean, it's a very secure building. All the cars get insured and they're maintained while they're here. Bruce and I grew up together. Bruce is the chairman of our board of the museum, and he was a big influence in getting this museum done. The museum was the brainstorm or the desire of Mr. and Mrs. Petersen. At the time, Mr. Petersen owned Petersen Publishing. And the magazines that started Petersen Publishing were Hot Rod and Motor Trend, and when we did the museum, there were 65 titles that Petersen was doing, and he felt he owed it back to the city of Los Angeles to do a museum honoring the automobile, because there's no city in the world, we believe, that was influenced with its growth like Los Angeles was by the automobile.
I've noticed one of the exciting things about the museum is the eclectic collection. I mean, you have everything from Duesenbergs to Rambler convertibles. I mean, how do you decide what ends up here?
Well, it's kind of decided for us in a way that a lot of these cars are donations, and people come up with the idea that we take donations, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit for any donation that's given to the museum. The appraisal is between the owner and the appraiser, and they get 100% tax deduction for making the donation to the museum. So a lot of these people that have these cars want them to go to a place where they feel they're going to be well cared for and appreciated and all that. So it's more of an emotional thing with them than it is a financial thing. So they'll donate the car, which they get full value for the deduction on, but they want to make sure the car is preserved and all that. So we have a situation where somebody will call one day and have a 56 Chevy Nomad they want to donate, and then we just had a gentleman, a well-known collector here in Los Angeles, Gordon R. Howard, who was an old friend of mine, and his wife is still a good friend of mine from the hotel business out in an area where I had a hotel in Burbank, and he passed away. And he had about a 25-car collection and also about 25 motorcycles. And those vehicles are all ending up at the Petersen Automotive Museum. We have about 8 of the cars and about 14 of the motorcycles already, and it goes everywhere from a Silver Ghost, early Silver Ghost, up to a 1948 Daimler, and all the cars are great cars. There's a 1912 Buick in there, and there's all this different kind of stuff. So you end up kind of getting a collection together that wasn't really planned. It just kind of happens. Now we've been around for almost 9 years. People see we're going to be around a while, and there's some credibility here. So the donations have been very good. If there becomes an occasion that there's a car we really need to have, we feel is really going to fit in our collection, all that, Mr. Petersen usually steps up and buys that car for his collection, and then we have it on long-term loan here at the museum. So he owns a lot of the cars.
You mentioned emotional appeal on some of the cars. I know a lot of the cars here have kind of kicked in memories for me of some experiences from the past that
Right.
that I kind of enjoy sharing with some of the viewers. So.
Well, I've heard about your warm and fuzzy show, your warm and fuzzy segment of your show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is there some stuff here that
Have you heard like complaints or anything?
Yeah, I've heard some people talk about it, and we've never met before, but your reputation precedes you.
Well, Richard, it's really nice talking to you. Thanks for taking the time to be on Vintage Vehicle.
Coming to the Petersen.
All right, thanks. Like an awful lot of the viewers, I got my start in cars by building model cars. I used to sit in my bedroom at my desk and build AMT models all the time. Just loved to do it. Well, one of the cars that I built was this very car, a 1958 Thunderbird that was built by Larry Watson way back then, and he was famous for his paint jobs. I love this car, and I used to take a lot of my cars and enter them in model car contests, and as a matter of fact, I took this very car.
There you go with the warm and fuzzy stories again. I told you about the warm and fuzzy stories.
But the viewers love them.
Thank you very much.
The viewers love them.
Thanks. We really appreciate you doing that.